IB Nation Sports Talk's up and rolling. It's Monday, and we just slam right into a brand new week along with Vince DeDario, Sean Stiers. Man, I mean, a weekend of Final Four, men's and women's basketball, all those people dying on the White Lotus season finale. Does anybody want me to tell you who died on the White Lotus? I know you don't watch the White Lotus.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I can just spoil it for everybody if you haven't watched it yet.
That would be mean. Don't
spoil
do that.
Away. People died, though. I don't think that's a shock. I won't tell you who died.
What is it? Is it like a current show, or is it like set in a time of history? Or
yeah, it's set like White Lotus. In a nutshell, this is season 3 of White Lotus. And each White Lotus, the White Lotus is like it's a resort chain. So the first one was set in Hawaii. The second one was set in Italy, and this one was set in Thailand. And in each case, the resort that the people are staying in is, like a branch of the White Lotus.
Okay.
And someone dies. Someone dies. At least one person dies every year, basically, every season. So, and last night was the season finale.
And somebody died.
This is the worst. This is the worst of the 3 seasons, in my opinion, for anyone else who's seen it. It was just, you remember Jennifer Coolidge,
yes,
from American Pie, the original MILF. That to me is where the term MILF originated. But she was in the first 2 seasons.
No.
Spoiler alert: she died at the end of season 2, so she wasn't in this one. But that was, like part of the plot. In this one, part of the story, actually. So. No one else is chiming in on White Lotus, so I'm not going to get hung up on that. I have a feeling more people want to hear about quarterbacks than that.
Yeah, Andre's already talking QBs, so all right. I'm ready.
Andre slipping it in, ready to go?
Yep. Wants to know if it's a two-man quarterback race.
I think if you ask Marcus Freeman, it's going to be a 3-man race indefinitely. What do you think?
I did not listen to his press conference.
Oh, you didn't? So this will all be fresh.
This is all new for me.
You haven't heard any of it.
I know some the newsworthy items that came out of it, like the injuries and stuff like that, but I didn't actually listen to his words. So I'm actually, and then when I saw the rundown for today, I was like, well, now I'm definitely not going to go back and listen. I want to. Yeah.
Hear it for the first time.
Yes, I like that.
Salty wants to know, does one of the quarterbacks die at the end of the competition?
Well, his Notre Dame life might be over, but
very true.
Yeah, his overall life will definitely not be.
Stay alive. I will avenge you. I will find you.
That's right.
You would know what that means because you haven't seen The Last of the Mohicans. So.
No, I need to go back and watch that. I've got some spring break plans. I need to do some movie watching.
Apparently. I tell you what, I might be most excited on today's show to talk about the topic that comes at the very end of the show. So I'll just kind of leave that out there, teasing to see who hangs around for the last topic of the day.
I almost went and tried to accomplish that topic.
Did you?
But I didn't look to see if it was available. I'll say that. We'll save it. We'll save it. I don't want to jump the gun.
Salty said the show description says Vince and I were at the press conference. Liar. I thought I said I was at both the practice and the press conference. Vince was at the practice.
Yes.
If I accidentally said we were both at the press conference, that's not what I meant. We were both at the practice.
And I was doing a show, Salty, or preparing to do the show.
I got a feeling you were eating lunch during the press conference.
Yeah, probably true. Preparing.
based on everything that I heard in the conversation I had with,
there were laptops out.
If we're going IB depth chart, the man ahead of you on the depth chart there. So
that list is long and distinguished, but laptops were out at that lunch.
Top Gun reference. I like that one. I guess I'll keep it PG as Tommy was saying. I won't go there.
That quote can get very un-PG very quickly.
Rick Rossovich, man. Rick Rossovich. Good dude. At least in Top Gun.
Yes.
Anyway.
Correct.
Great volleyball player. All right. Quarterback time. Marcus Freeman said at the start of the spring that he didn't want to put a timeline on when he's going to name the starters. So I asked him if he expects the timeline to go beyond the spring now.
I don't know when it's going to be. I mean, it will be when they kind of determine decisions need to be made. You know what I mean? I've always said, like, I don't truly believe that coaches put a timeline. I think the players kind of decide when decisions need to be made. And as soon as there's a clear starter, we'll name a clear starter.
All right, so there you go. There seems to be a pretty good split on what people think, Vince, about when they need to name a starting quarterback. Do you think they need to name one, need being the key word, by the end of the spring? How necessary is that?
It is not necessary to name one at the end of spring. Now, if it is just painfully obvious that one guy is better than the other two, then why not name the starter? You know what I mean? And or what I would say is the team would know who the starter is. I don't know that I give a hoot about like if I'm the coach, right? Like I don't think I care if the media knows who the starter is. Like that doesn't matter to me. You know what I mean? But the team would know who the starter is. I think that's more important than anything, especially if it's obvious from practice. But if it's still relatively even between even two of the three, then no, I don't think you need to name one after spring. I think there's a lot you can determine over summer and then the first, week or so of fall camp.
I don't think you need to either. Like when you look at how recent competitions have gone, they've all gone into the fall, even if
it's so obvious, like
even the obvious ones, like Jack Cohn.
Right.
They didn't bring him from Wisconsin to sit on the bench that year. They didn't bring Sam Hartman in to sit on the bench a couple of years ago, but they, at least in theory, technically extended those competitions into the first week of fall training camp. And it's like all those guys are going to get work with the receivers over the summer. So it's not like they're out there, banging out a depth chart when they're doing their own stuff and they're just, doing route tree stuff with the receivers and stuff like that. All of the quarterbacks on the roster are going to be out there throwing with as many wide receivers as they can over the course of the summer. So there's no benefit in naming what, like a big rush to name a starting quarterback by the end of the spring. I just don't see that. What I'm curious about is as we get into some of this quarterback talk, like when people get a chance to see these three guys on Sunday, how much are they going to watch that game, the blue gold game, whatever the blue gold game turns out to be, and we'll talk about the format actually in rapid fire, but like how much are people going to align with kind of like what you and I think? Mm-hmm. Because I know that there's some different thinking based on what other people, who are at practice saw out there, and how much of it's just going to be confirmation bias, like you've got your guy and you're digging in even deeper, regardless of what you actually see from them on Saturday.
And I tried very hard at practice not to have said confirmation bias, right? Because I feel like I know who these quarterbacks are for the most part. I feel like my opinion is kind of settled, and Saturday kind of confirmed what I thought, to be honest. Like, and it was really hard,
but not in a biased manner, right?
Right, exactly. Like, I didn't want to go in with a biased manner. Like, that was it was a concerted effort not to be biased. But then, as I'm sitting there watching, and it just. Everything that happened, it was like, yeah, okay, yep, that makes sense. Yep, yep. Like that's how it was for me the entire practice, and so I have not changed my opinion in any way, shape, or form about the quarterbacks. And I, like Andre says, that he needs to know by after the first week of fall camp.
Okay,
I love that, Andre. I would love to know who the starter is after the first week of camp. But I love you, dude, but they don't care what you need to see. Like, that doesn't matter. Like, that doesn't matter in any way, shape, or form.
Well, and camp seems to be starting earlier all the time now anyway.
That's true.
So, and I'm not sure exactly, like we won't know exactly when camp is going to open until probably a few weeks before it opens. Maybe we get some kind of word in June. I don't know. But, the last 2 years it's opened in July, and it's
Yeah, and that would I don't think it'll be as early as it has been. Obviously, it's usually a month before the season starts, right? And like that would make sense based on when August 31st is the first game. I would imagine that camp will start somewhere around July 31st. You know what I mean? Like somewhere in there so that they have 4 full weeks of practice, more or less. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to say practice starts on or around August 4th. That's my guess. That would give them 4 full weeks, 2 camp weeks, and then 2 prep weeks, and then it's go time. Like that.
It's kind of how it's usually structured.
Yeah, that's what I would think how it would go. You know what I mean? So, but we'll see. You're right. I remember, that last week of July is always a very common time for people to take a vacation. And in the past, that has not been smart because they've had first week of practice.
Yep. We've each tried the last 2 years, and then they started practice, So
that will not be a problem this year, but
I know.
For me anyway. But so yeah, I mean, I would love to just have it settled so that we don't have to have this topic hanging over our heads all summer. But we will.
Oh, we will. Yeah.
We will. And that's just the way it's going to be. Here's what I would like to see. Okay. And this is what I'm very curious to see. We get to the end of spring, which we're essentially right on the doorstep of, and the end of the portal window, right? How many quarterbacks are going to be on the roster? Yeah. That's what I'm interested to see. Because if somebody is in a distant third, I feel like the coaching staff almost owes that person
But again, it's one practice, and I did listen to the to the Saturday quarterback part of the show that you and Brian and Trevor did, and I noticed Brian had to go out of his way to mention, even Steyer's got hyped, like watching. It's like I don't get excited, I don't get fired up. Come on,
Well, you were very demonstrative in that one particular moment. Like we both looked over at you, and you're like, yeah, this one's over. I forget exactly what you said, but
it wasn't that.
It was more like, what are people not seeing or something like that. Yeah.
Well, are you going to dance around, like who you actually think is in front of this thing?
Me?
Or yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you exactly how I think it is.
After the break. No,
okay. Okay. Because Brian, he kind of went off towards the end of our quarterback talk and just kind of put it out there.
I don't remember that. Maybe I was just diverted. I don't know.
It was towards the very end of the thing. But
let me play this next one.
Hit it.
And then we'll kind of jump into that, I think, a little bit. So we saw practice. We saw what the rotation of reps looks like for these guys. And, and again, I know you talked about that on the show, and we'll kind of detail that a little bit more for anybody who missed that, kind of how they did divvy up the reps and how they've apparently been divvying up the reps throughout most of the spring. So I asked Marcus Freeman how they've handled the split of the reps with 3 guys in this competition, as well as if it's been challenging for the coaching staff to evaluate these guys, the way they're splitting the reps up.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a coach staff, you just want to get them more, but they've handled it perfectly. Right? They focus on the reps they get. They do the best job they can. If they're not in there, they're getting mental reps. They're helping each other out, and really focus on being the best version of them. And that's all you can ask. If you're worried about anything else, then you're not really helping yourself at all, right? If you're worried about counting the other person's reps and if how many completions he has, that's not helping you be the best version of you. And so they've been amazing. They've been great. But just exactly what I thought they would be, mature and guys that take care of their business and take advantage of their opportunities that they're getting. For us, how do we find ways to continuously get them more, but understand that we have a team that it maybe isn't as deep in those positions right now in the spring. And so we can't hurt the greater good of the team. We have to be able to evaluate those guys. But we feel like we have done, in the first 9 practices, a really good job being able to at least evaluate those guys in a fair way. And, again, that's what we'll continue to do as we go throughout spring.
So what do you think, Vince?
That was a bit of a word salad.
It was an extended word salad.
It really was.
Give him that.
It really was. I mean, look, the bottom line is that, I'm trying to figure out kind of how they have outlined the practice reps, right? In the practice that we were at. Like, what does it look like? Is somebody consistently going with the ones? Is somebody consistently going with the twos, et cetera, et cetera? That was definitely not the case, right? And it didn't feel even. Like, it didn't feel even.
Well, now part of that is because
of the way the scrimmage was structured.
Yeah, so like the way they set this up, so Minchey comes out, he gets the first team reps first. And the way they work it out is, like they had, I think, a minimal number. Was it like 6 was the minimal number?
Something like that.
Yeah. But like if your drive ends with a turnover, even if it's a fumble by, someone other than the quarterback, then your series is over with, like they play. And like that happened to CJ Carr on either his first or second drive. I think there was a fumble. Your drive is over. Minchey did lead a touchdown drive. So his drive naturally lasted a little bit longer than the other guys. I think besides the very end when Carr, threw the touchdown pass, that was the only touchdown drive that we saw, right?
There's
Minchey
2
drive?
total. Yeah. Minchey and Carr.
Minchey and Carr. Right. So, so Minchey goes out, he gets the first team reps. Angeli comes out, he gets the second team reps, and then Hebert comes out and gets a handful of third team reps. But then they cycle back through, and now Carr's with the number 1s.
Right.
And I think was Angeli with the number 2s again?
Something like that. And
but that's kind of how they rotated like that.
And they didn't really even go in order with the quarterback. Like, it was weird.
I mean, obviously they have it scripted out, so they know what they're going to do.
Of course.
But
But I mean, at the end of the day, the way the drives went, CJ Carr ended up getting the least amount of throws in a team setting. Like, that's just the way that it ended up. And again, a lot of it had to do with the fact, like for example, they had a run on 4th down when CJ Carr, it was his drive. They had a run on 4th down, clearly a first down, and the refs said that they didn't get it. And so then it was a turnover, and CJ Carr was done. He was in there for like 3 plays or 4 plays, and then it was done. You know what I mean? So like that drive was almost like non-existent because I want to say it was 2 runs. Like he didn't do a whole lot in that particular series. So you're right. Since his series was so short, it felt like he didn't really get a whole lot of reps, to be perfectly honest with you. But that's just the way that it ended up working out.
Yeah. So do you want to just go ahead and tick off a third of the people listening and watching and just like
look
how you would rank them?
Yeah.
Right now?
I mean, here's the deal. As far as the quarterbacks are concerned, look, we didn't learn anything new about Steve Angeli, right? He's accurate on the short throws. He's accurate during, drill work, things like that. Fairly accurate during 7-on-7 because most of the balls are check downs and, things of that nature. Okay, cool. That's Steve Angeli. Like, that's who he is, right? Kenny Minchey is dynamic with his legs. He has a very live arm. He can look super, super elite. Like Brian even said it in the show, and I will reiterate it here. He said he leaned over to me at one point and was like, right now, I think Kenny's playing the best quarterback here at this practice. And I swear to you, 2 plays later, he throws that pick.
He throws the interception.
Right. And
noticeably improved, though, since the last time we got to see him live, which was basically
agreed.
Last year. Noticeably improved Kenny Minchey.
And he, it was a bad pick, though. You know what I mean? Like, he stared it down. Like, it was a bad pick. Threw it off of his back foot. Like, it was bad. And then you've got CJ Carr, whose floor is very high, and he just doesn't put the ball. He doesn't make mistakes with the football. Like that's what I've seen. He doesn't make mistakes with the football, and then has the propensity for a big play. That's who CJ Carr is. So based on practice yesterday, like I said, it confirmed kind of already what I thought. At the top, you've got CJ Carr because he's the most consistent and he's got the highest ceiling. You've got Kenny, who is also elite arm strength, has an elite arm, does a lot of really good things well, just not as consistent. So that falls him to number 2. And then you've got Steve, who just doesn't have the arm talent of the other two. And,
and to me, that's the biggest issue.
It's a huge issue,
honestly, because he's doing his reads. He looked good running the ball a couple of times. He looked good. He looked his best probably in 7-on-7 when there's no pass rush. You don't have to worry about that. And obviously, that impacted all of the quarterbacks Saturday, the pass rush with a makeshift line. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But he's either a beat late delivering the ball, like behind the receiver, or he's throwing high to the middle of the field. And
that's the thing. So there was a lot of people that talked about that throw that Steve missed, right? That slant throw, that glance throw that he missed, right? And it would have been a touchdown. Like, there's no doubt about it if he puts it on the right spot. And I've seen and heard people say, "Oh, he just missed that throw. It was just behind." No, he was way behind. Like,
you're talking about the one to Cam Williams.
Yes.
Right?
It was way behind. Like, it wasn't just behind.
If he leads him, which CJ Carr does all the time. Like, CJ Carr is always throwing the ball in a manner that is going to allow much more yak than either of the other two quarterbacks. I'm not saying Kenny Minchey is bad at it, but like, that's where Steve Angeli was struggling the most. And, I heard you talking about, like the long delivery that Angeli has. When you compare him to the other two, his delivery is longer and his arm is not as strong.
Correct.
And so even though he's got the right read, he's throwing the ball where it's supposed to go and it's right in front of him. Cam Williams has to turn back behind him to do this. Still hit him in the hand, still should have caught it, but it's behind him. And that's because of the quarterback, and it's just, like, we saw that more times than just that one, but that was the most glaring one because of the fact that it should have been about a 70-some yard touchdown.
Correct. And we'd be having a different conversation
behind him. Right.
We'd be having a different conversation about Steve because he led them on a touchdown drive. He's the only quarterback that did not lead them on a touchdown drive. And that's, I'm sorry. It's, again, small sample size. It's one practice, but it's also a microcosm of everything that we've seen in the past from all three of these guys, in my opinion. That's the thing. And in team, Steve was extremely inaccurate. He was throwing balls high. He was throwing balls wide.
You know who threw a ball high to the middle of the field? Penn State quarterback Drew Aller threw a ball high to the middle of the field.
Lost in the game.
Like, that's the kind of stuff that we saw Angeli doing. And, again, one practice and, you all that, but it's not like this is the only time we've ever seen some of these things from Angeli. And even bigger is just the difference in the arm strength. To me, like, that's that beat. Like, if Angeli's arm strength is what Carr's or Minchey's is, that ball is about a foot. It's a foot difference, and Williams catches that ball in stride, and he goes with it. But his arm's not as strong as either of those other two, and that makes a difference.
Even in drill work, and I said this on the other show, even in drill work, the drill where they have all four quarterbacks throwing to four different routes, right? And they just rotate through. So they all get to throw to the same route. The two outside guys were both throwing out routes. So it's the same route, just the opposite side of the field. One side you had CJ Carr, and on one side you had Steve Angeli. They get the ball at the exact same time. It's the exact same route. They both go into their delivery at the exact same time. The ball from CJ Carr to that man got there a full second faster than the ball got there from Steve. It's because of the delivery and the velocity of the ball. Those two things combined, the ball is late. That's just the way it is. That's just an observation. That's not an opinion. Like, I visually saw that take place, right? And I leaned over to Trevor and I said that exact same thing. He's like, yeah, I saw that too. Like, it was very obvious on that particular drill.
The time that you were talking about that, where I was like, kind of a little bit, not flabbergasted, but, like, where I turned to you guys, it was just a simple, and I think it was during the 7-on-7. It was something very simple, but to me, it just shows the difference in the feel for the game, that the natural feel for the game that CJ Carr has, and the anticipation that he has. Like, he knows what's coming, and he knows when his guy is going to be open, and it just jumps out at you. Like, when you watch him, when you compare it to the other two guys, it's just different about him. And it's like how you exactly quantify it, I don't know. But the pass in particular, again, it was not a spectacular pass. There was nothing particularly special about the play in general, but it's like a little short pass, and KK Smith does a little like within probably 5 yards of the line of scrimmage or something like that. Carr looks to his right, and he starts to cock his arm because, again, he knows that KK Smith is going to be open, but he's a little bit early. So he stops and he waits for a beat. Smith is covered. He's not open yet. And he waits that beat, and then he fires it to him, the only place where the ball is going to be caught, because he's got a defensive back sitting right there with him, on his hip, and KK Smith makes the catch. It's a simple little completion. Again, like nothing special, but like just that little pause where he started. To me, it was kind of like, like a batter in the batter's box, and, like he starts his load because he thinks it's going to be a fastball, but then, I recognize curveball. And so he waits, he stops, and then he flicks the curveball the other way. It was like that, like just that natural knowing, again, the anticipation and the feel that he has. It's just different. And then, like the pass, and I know you guys talked about this a little bit, but again, it was another pass to KK Smith where it was in the live stuff. And it might have even been his first pass. I can't remember, like Carr's first.
It was
pass
early
of the live. Yeah. So again, Smith is blanketed. Carr gets pressure coming from his left, so he starts to kind of scramble a little bit, roll to his right, and he basically does a Patrick Mahomes. He's got a defender bearing down on him.
Yep.
He does this sidearm pass, but it's a strike again to KK Smith and exactly where it needs to be, and it's another completion. And it's like that's arm talent. It's like the definition of arm talent, doing something like that without even thinking about it, and to put it exactly where it needs to be. And again, like when you look at the other guys, Kenny Minchey has a stronger, arm than Angeli. He's got a strong arm, but he doesn't do that kind of stuff. At least we haven't seen that kind of stuff consistently. And that's the kind of stuff that now we've seen from CJ Carr the last 2 springs. And it's different. And to me, it stands out when you watch him.
The processing is what really stands out. And then you add the processing to the arm talent and the release, and, the tools. Those things combined just makes it an easy choice for me. Now, granted, I'm not making the choice, so they're not asking for my opinion, but it's been obvious the last 2 springs. And everybody's entitled to their opinion, and I will respect everybody's opinion, and that's fine. We all watched the same practice, and people came away with different opinions on what they saw, which is mind-boggling to me, but that still happened. And I don't think they're going to name a starter by the end of the spring.
I don't either.
I really don't. And I will say this. People inside the program are noticing the differences. I'll say that, right? Now, it's not like they gave us some super secret depth chart that we're going off of or anything like that. But people in the program are noticing that there is separation being made amongst the 3. To say it that way. It's not just us thinking this. Okay. And look, again, Kenny Minchey has elite skill. He's just a little inconsistent right now. Like any other year, if CJ Carr didn't exist, I would be ecstatic that Kenny Minchey might be the starter of this football team, because he's going to make some plays. He's going to make people look silly, right? He's also going to turn the ball over and make some mistakes. You know what I mean? And all these guys are going to do that, right? I mean, you're not going to go through a whole season, a 12-plus game season and not throw an interception, right? I mean, that's unrealistic. But Kenny's just a little bit too much up and down for me right now, when you also have a guy like CJ that is more consistent, right? That's my biggest thing. So I feel like I'm splitting hairs a little bit between those two, because they both do have a lot of talent, and Kenny is more athletic, from a running standpoint. Not that CJ can't run the ball, but he is more athletic. He does check that box. So there's a lot to love there. No doubt about it. CJ's just more consistent for me.
Yeah, I mean, Christopher says we're still talking about practice. I get it, but we have all seen Steve in live action. But look,
come on now.
This quarterback competition is based on what's going on in practice, whether you like it or not. And again, like Mike Denbrock had that question to him about Angeli, and he basically said, look, you guys want to talk about all this so-called experience that Angeli has, and it's like, again, it's a little bit more. And I went back and I watched the end of the first half, that drive that Angeli had that everyone wants to talk about against Penn State in the Orange Bowl. And great job. He did his job, right?
100%.
For the most part, even though he fumbled and was very fortunate on the strip sack that one of his teammates recovered the fumble for him, because like how different would the conversation we're having about Steve Angeli be had that not been recovered? But look, of the passes, all the passes that he completed, 2 were screen passes that went to Aeneas Williams that were both caught behind the line of scrimmage, and 4 of them were within 3 and 6 yards of the line of scrimmage. So like that.
That's play calling.
Great. Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's knowing who you have.
And I mean, I said at the time it would have been nice if they were calling those kind of plays for Riley Leonard when he was in there, because he might have been completing those passes.
Seriously.
Yeah. And I mean, that's exactly what that is. It was play calling. Now, again, give Steve Angeli credit. He completed the passes, right? And a lot of them, a few of them turned into like 12-yard gains and 14-yard gains, but everything was caught within 6 yards of the line of scrimmage, within 3 and 6 yards of the line of scrimmage. That's not sustainable over the course of an entire game, let alone an entire season.
Correct.
So like, again, great that he did his job, but he was sacked twice. And, like the second sack, they were able to call timeout. They had 2 seconds left at the end of the half to kick the field goal. Ultimately, first one he fumbled, teammate recovered, second one sacked again, and like whether it's all on, of course it's not all on him, someone's got to block and do all those different things, but like, let's not act like Steve Angeli just lit it up because he completed a bunch of short passes. I mean, it really is the same kind of things that Ian Book was doing on a consistent basis. You still have to be able, to test the field downfield, and that's something that we just haven't seen Steve Angeli do. Maybe a little bit in the Sun Bowl, but he sure had some pretty good support from Jadarian Price running the ball in that game as well.
Well, and I do wonder in an alternate universe if Notre Dame had not recovered that strip sack fumble, what people think of Steve Angeli. Because they all go to that drive. Oh, he saved the season. He did. It was the first scoring drive, blah, 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 blah. All of that is true. No doubt about it. But if Notre Dame doesn't recover that fumble, they don't score on that drive. And then what happens? Like, is that the ace in the hole that everybody says that it is for Steve Angeli? That's my question. And here's the other thing. Everybody's like, oh, none of that was on him. It was, guys were getting in the backfield, blah, 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 blah. That was happening at practice, by the way. All 3 quarterbacks were harassed and under pressure all day long because the offensive line was not good compared to Notre Dame's defensive line. 2 guys were successful. 1 guy was dreadful.
No, that's true.
So what you're telling me is if I have an opportunity to scout against Steve Angeli as the starting quarterback for Notre Dame, what do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to heat his ass up.
Yeah.
And we win the game. Look, that's what's going to happen.
But here's something else that I don't think, has been talked about enough about that last pass of the practice that, traveled in the air, a good probably 40 yards. I think the line of scrimmage was around the 25. Yeah. But, CJ Carr was 5 different guys were surrounding CJ Carr, and he stepped back and he throws that downfield 40 yards in the air and drops it in the bucket, the only place that it could be caught. And Elijah Burris catches that ball in the back of the end zone. But 5 different guys were surrounding CJ Carr. Like Christopher is saying, well, that's not on, neither of those sacks are on him. Okay, there was a high snap and, whatever, the first, CJ Carr stepped back away from the pressure and lofts the ball downfield with 5 guys bearing down on him and drops it in the bucket for a touchdown. That's not the kind of presence that we have seen from Steve Angeli. And you can talk about the fact, okay, that's a real game versus practice and whatever else. These guys all know what's on the line in those practices. So you can talk about whether or not it's practice or a real game. They all know what's on the line in all these practices, and they know
there's pressure on these guys.
There is pressure in these guys. These
literal
are not
and
normal
figurative
practices because they're all competing for the starting quarterback job.
Literal and figurative pressure on these 3 every time they touch the football.
Christopher, you can keep saying practice, but practice is where they're being evaluated. There's no way around that.
And the game is where he got sacked twice and fumbled.
Right.
So, and here's the other thing. And Christopher, he absolutely, people are forcing me to basically say that he's lousy, and I don't want to say that because he did do his job.
He's just not as good as the other two.
He did lead the team on a scoring drive. No question. He absolutely did his job. No doubt about it. Okay. But if he stays in the game the rest of the way, Notre Dame loses that game. If he's in the game for the entire time, if Riley Leonard does not come back in the game, they lose that game.
Look,
I'm sorry.
Drew Pine won 8 games for Notre Dame 3 years ago. Would you want Drew Pine as your starting quarterback right now? Because he had he had way more game experience than Steve Angeli. Would you want Drew Pine as your starting quarterback because you saw him play in a real game and he won 8 games?
Right. Exactly.
Would you?
Exactly. Because you'll win 8 to 10 games with Steve Angeli. There's no question in my mind. He's not a bad quarterback. He's not a bad quarterback. He is not a championship level quarterback. And nothing anybody can say is going to change my mind about that. I have seen him for the last 3 years, 4 springs. That is it. He's not a championship level quarterback. He's a really solid quarterback, which is what, by the way, everybody's like, well, he has clearly made himself the number 2 for the last 3 years. What he is a great, great backup quarterback because he's not fazed by the moment. He can go in there and he can execute.
And he has confidence.
He has
supreme confidence in himself. That is obvious, and no one's taking that away from him. Nobody's knocking him.
And I think that is a very valuable person to have on your roster, by the way. Very valuable. And I wouldn't ask him to leave. I wouldn't. If I'm Marcus Freeman, I am not asking any of these quarterbacks to leave. And if I went to, let's say I went to Steve Angeli and I said, look, man, you're in third, man. This is where we're at coming out of spring. The other 2 guys, they're just outplaying you. But I really want you to stick around because I really think that you're an asset to this team. I really want you here on this team. That's what my message would be. It would not be get out of here, take a hike. It would not be my message. That's not at all what I would say to him.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Christopher. I can't leave Drew out of this.
Drew's worried about finding another team right now, a 4th team.
Bowling Green apparently is where he's.
I didn't even see that.
Yeah.
Guess what? Appropriate. That's where you belong, my brother. That he will be successful at Bowling Green. Good for him. That's awesome. And my last point about Steve Angeli, I
just accidentally unstarred something. I wish I hadn't because somebody said this is the time to throw a pick and learn from it. Nothing wrong with that.
You talking about Minchey.
Talking about but again, that's not the kind I think that you want there to be some learning.
Sure.
In every rep that you take, good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
I will give you that, but that was a bad interception.
Really bad.
It was just I think like you said, he stares him down and it's a walk-on corner. Isaiah Dunn makes the pick. Great read by him, great baiting, I think, by him. But if it's a starting quarterback or starting corner, one of those guys probably takes it back the other way. Yeah. And again, look, we want to go back to Drew Pine. Drew Pine played, for the most part, a pretty good game against USC in his last game as the Notre Dame quarterback. But what did he do? He turned the ball over a couple of times, and ultimately that was the difference in that game were the turnovers that he committed. You can't just forgive a turnover. I'm sorry. And especially in a, and again, it is one practice, so we don't know what's going on in the other practices.
Correct.
And look, I've said this before, like that's part of what, like we get this one opportunity and we love the fact that we had that opportunity.
Yep.
But if we had a couple more opportunities, we wouldn't be basing everything on the one practice that we got to see. We would have, more of a body of work to be able to look at and make different judgments. We'll get some of that Saturday in the blue gold game. We didn't go out there. We didn't chart completions and incompletions, like we didn't do any of that on Saturday, right?
Nope, none of it.
We're going based on what our eyeballs told us, not what, completions and incompletions told us.
I couldn't have said it better myself, so I'm going to give it to the order of the weekend because Father David does this all the time. He is a speaker to the masses. So he put it perfectly. He says, it is time to throw the pick and learn from it. Even better, the guy who doesn't throw the pick and makes all the other throws.
Especially if he's actually making plays downfield. It's like,
correct.
Because again, it's one thing not to throw an interception, but it's another thing if you're not throwing interceptions because you're always making the safe play. Like that's all you're doing is making the safe play, and you're not testing yourself.
You're not pushing the ball. You're not doing, 100%. And Minchey does that, right? He absolutely does that. He'll push the ball and he'll do different things to move the ball down the field and all of those things. And the spring is the time to make mistakes. There's no doubt about that. But there's three guys competing, as you said earlier. These three guys are under pressure, mentally and physically because they don't have a full offensive line, right? So they are under pressure physically. They're under pressure mentally. And mistakes count. Like that's part of it. That's all part of the evaluation. It's not the be all end all, but it is part of the evaluation. And that was a big mistake in that, with the blinders on in that moment, it was a big mistake.
And I mean, like for Minchey, it's a shame because the rest of his practice, like if he hadn't made that mistake, we probably would have, and I know some other people have come out of that practice saying, that he was the best guy of the three, but you can't just overlook the fact that he made a fatal flaw. You can't overlook that. I'm sorry. We're evaluating quarterbacks.
It's all part of it.
And it's all part of it.
And that I'm telling you, it fits exactly what we've been saying about who Kenny Minchey is. Huge ceiling, makes huge plays, big time, right? It's just too inconsistent, just makes too many mistakes. And he can be super successful. If he ends up starting at Notre Dame at some point, if he can clean up those mistakes, he could be elite. If he goes someplace else and cleans up those mistakes, he could be elite. I have no doubt in my mind. It's just to me that he's competing against a guy who's not making those mistakes right now. And that's the difference. And that's why I have him slightly behind CJ Carr in my mythical doesn't matter to anyone depth chart.
Let's talk about the impact of the offensive line on this quarterback competition, or better yet, let's let Marcus Freeman talk about it. He was asked about, has the fact that it is a bit of a makeshift lines out there, has that impacted the evaluation of these guys and slash them as they compete for this job?
I mean, I think they control what they control, right? And there's different ways to evaluate the quarterbacks without an offensive line, with an offensive line. I think the thought is that just because they're young, they can't protect, but I think they've done a good job at protecting the quarterback at times. But that's the reality. You're going to get pressure as a quarterback, and you got to find ways to maneuver through it, extend plays, make plays, but also be able to take care of the football. And you know what, if there's nothing open and you're getting pressure, at times you're either going to take a sack or throw the ball away. So I think they've been put in really good situations, but I don't know if that's had an impact on the evaluation of the quarterbacks. I don't think at all.
So this was a first-team offensive line at Saturday's practice. Left tackle, Styles Prescott. Left guard, Sullivan Absher. Center, Joe Otting. Right guard, Charles Jagasaw, and right tackle, Owen Strebig. That was a first-team offensive line.
Here's the thing. You can use it. Look, there's one guy on that offensive line that's actually going to be starting barring injury, right? It's Charles Jagasaw, okay? Sullivan Absher, I know, is in the mix, and, we've heard different names and things like that. Charles Jagasaw is going to be starting in the fall, okay? So the thing is, it's not like they've got the penciled in starting lineup blocking for one guy. And
just to answer this, Mike says, why is the O-line so bad in the spring? Did you hear the names? And it's no offense to those guys, but these are not starters. There's only one guy who's a starter.
Those guys are the future. Those guys are the future of the Notre Dame offensive line. They are not the present. Okay. And, you know, all three of these guys are going behind the same offensive line. So it's an even, like that part is like, okay, we know this, right? And all three guys are trying to compete behind that exact same offensive line. So it's not really a thing for me because all three of them are under pressure. All three of them have to make plays. And so it's not like one guy is under, behind the Cowboys offensive line from the 90s.
Right.
And then another guy is behind, whatever the Adams High School offensive line. But if the starting line I just mentioned is the first team line, then think about what the second team line looks like. It's a thing. The pressure is a thing. And I said something to Brian about it, during the practice, like, man, it's hard to evaluate when they're just kind of running for their lives at times. And he's like, well, yeah, they're all running for their lives, though. And so it's kind of an even comparison, and who's going to make
What are you going to look like under pressure? How are you going to handle it? Because guess what?
Important.
Because when injuries happen in a game and you've got to replace two starters, how are you going to respond? And again, like to Steve Angeli's credit, he did what he was asked to do. He responded well for the most part in that Orange Bowl at the end of the half. Like you couldn't ask for a, more pressure pack type situation for him to step into, but
so they're all behind the same line. So it is really inconsequential for me. If I'm making this evaluation, it's okay. How are they processing the information? What are they seeing? Are they watching film? Can they sit down on the board and decide, okay, this is what I did well, this is what I didn't do well, this is what I need to do next time, and then do it the next day in practice? Like those are all things we don't get to see, right? That's what Gino gets to see. That's what Denbrock gets to see. That's what Marcus Freeman gets to see. It's how are these guys learning? How are they processing? And how are they executing? It doesn't matter who the offensive line is, in my personal opinion. I wasn't watching the faces of the quarterbacks every minute of the day, but I did see when there was a check down by CJ Carr. He went up and they have the big board there, right? They have the big
video board,
the video board that shows every play as soon as it's over, like instantly. He's staring at the board to see which guy he missed because he had a corner that he probably could have gone to, right? A corner route. And he's looking at it. He's looking at the board. And he's like, and he claps his hands, and then he's back in it on the next play. He is learning and processing, and I didn't see any of the other guys doing that. Again, I wasn't hyper focused on it, but that stood out to me, right? Those little things.
Yeah.
He processes the game in a different way, and like you said, it's hard to quantify that, but it was clear to me as I was watching practice.
It's only what you want to see, Vince. It's only what you want to see.
Okay.
That's what it
fine.
is.
That's totally fine. Totally fine.
So, Craig, what would you want to see if you were at practice?
Right.
That's my question. Like, would you only be seeing what you want to see because you've got a favorite?
It is hard.
Out of this bunch?
It is hard. But I've just seen one guy make way more plays.
I didn't come into this with a favorite. I came into this wanting to watch these guys and see who the better guy is.
Right.
And, some of that we can base on what we saw last spring as well. But this is the first time that we've got to see really Minchey or CJ Carr live, definitely CJ Carr live since last spring. For the most part, Minchey. And, we got to see him a little bit against Purdue, obviously, but a different story. Yeah, we've got to see Steve Angeli. But, again, you can't base everything on a couple of games where you got to see Steve Angeli. You can't base it all on that just because he's got a negligible amount of experience advantage on the other two.
Yeah,
guys.
the whole experience argument just doesn't hold a lot of water for me. It just doesn't
with me either.
It just doesn't. He's had one drive against a starting defense. One. And he got sacked twice, fumbled, led him to a field goal. I mean, You can blame whatever you want to blame, and that's fine. He was under pressure. I get it. He was under pressure yesterday too and looked awful. So, and the other two guys were under pressure too, and they looked way better. It just, the whole experience. He doesn't have a whole lot of experience, folks. He's got a lot of experience being the number 2 guy. That's what he's got experience doing. Okay. And that's why I want him on the team, so he can be the number 2 guy. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think he's a great backup quarterback.
I do too. Craig didn't answer what he would want to see out there, by the way.
Yeah. Well,
Come on, Craig. Come on, Craig.
I'm trying, man. Look, we're all human and we all see what we want to see. But, I did go in there. I would have said, because I agreed with Brian, I thought Kenny was doing a great job before he threw the pick. But then it's like, oh, well, there's the big mistake. You know what I mean? Like there's Kenny. Like there's the big mistake. Super high traits, super high ceiling,
right.
Making a mistake. So it's all good.
DK says Craig was agreeing with Vince.
Well, that's even better.
Okay.
That's even better.
All right.
It's all good, guys. I agree. He says, I agree. Want to see him learning from mistake. Oh, okay.
Oh, gotcha.
There you go. Perfect. Thanks, Craig.
Oh, you want to see. Okay.
That's what you want to see.
Makes sense.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Obviously, sometimes the chat gets behind what, we're actually, and it sounded like he was saying, well, you're seeing what you want to see.
Yeah.
So that's how I took it. Okay. My bad.
Yeah. And it is what I wanted to see. That's why I brought it up, because I was like, okay, he's learning, and he didn't even make a mistake per se, right? He still completed the ball. And I think they ended up getting 7 or 8 yards on the play. Like he still completed it, but there was a bigger play there that he could have taken. You know what I mean? And so he is learning from those things and trying to be a better quarterback.
All right, one final comment from Marcus Freeman on the quarterbacks. He was asked about CJ Carr's improvement, and he went beyond that as well.
He's much improved. He's done a good job, as all 3 of them have. Blake has done a good job. Like they've all improved, and that's all you ask them. Each of them to improve, and they really are. And so he's improved from where he was practice 1, but all of them are. Credit to their coach and credit to them, but they've really just been constantly improving.
That was great. If that's not a nutshell coach answer, man.
I know.
Like he started to really give praise to CJ and how much he's improved. And he's like, but they've all improved. And
that's what it feels like to me is we're just dancing around.
Yes.
We're kind of going down what Vince always talks about, the everyone gets a ribbon. No one, you can't praise too much.
Right.
You can't heap too much praise on Johnny, because then Joey's going to get upset that you didn't heap enough praise on him. And it just feels, like you're asked about CJ Carr, just like how much has Carr improved, but it's like, it just feels like everyone's dancing around this to an extent. Like there's just this extended dance going on.
I can't wait till the dance is gone.
And Johnny says, was he saying that's what you want to see, or that's what you want to see?
I think I thought it was the second one, but it's actually the first one.
It's like The Martian. Do you remember when, Matt Damon was like, are you effing kidding me? And, the guy was sitting back there, in the mission. Tell me you've seen The Martian, Vince.
Oh, when he goes up and he lives on Mars.
Right.
Yeah.
He gets stranded on Mars. And the guy, the guy is sitting back there at NASA, and he's like, do you think he meant are you effing kidding me? Or are you effing kidding? And she's like, I think it was the second one.
I have seen that one, and you'll be surprised by this. I also read the book.
Really?
I did.
Nice.
I know.
Very nice.
Shocking to me too.
I know.
I'm with Father David.
Yeah.
He goes, I'm ready for the QB competition to be over. I know it won't be till the fall, but yeah, I'm done with it.
Well, like I said, this is what's going to happen now. We're going to get the spring game on Saturday, and everyone's going to argue about.
Oh yeah.
And
got my spring game credential today, though. So
I did too.
2 thumbs up. We're going.
Question is where I'm parking, I guess.
I didn't look at it that closely. It looked like everybody's supposed to park by the baseball lot.
Well, basically it's all first come, first serve.
Oh, it's
what they said.
I got you.
And there's baseball. I think there's a baseball game going on.
Of course there is.
A lot of other spring sports. So the parking lot's going to be probably packed, and I'll just end up parking over there at Innovation Park where we're usually
Yeah,
parking.
which is it's not a bad walk.
Buffett.
I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
Actually, the baseball is out of town. They're at Boston College.
Oh, are they?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Don't have to worry about that at least.
In need of some wins, man.
Big time. They're still struggling in the ACC, my friend. It is
three ACC wins, not series wins, just 3 wins total. They've
felt
lost
good
every
about a lot of
series.
things in the the quote unquote like preseason, like prior the non-conference. I guess I was feeling pretty good, and then that is not the case anymore.
Could be worse, I guess. You could be Virginia Tech. I don't know if you noticed the Virginia Tech bus in the baseball parking lot.
No,
they bust all the way from Virginia Tech.
Why?
Budget, I guess, man. That cannot be a short.
I've made that drive. We took 2 days to do it, so we stayed overnight someplace in between. That's not a drive I would want to do if I was an athlete. That is
rough, especially when you got to get back and go to class. And oh my gosh, I can't even imagine.
Sounds awful. Luckily, most of the time, these guys can do stuff online. But yeah, it's that's rough. That's rough.
Tommy wants to catch a ride with me. Well, I won't be coming in from Ohio, so who's coming into town for the game, by the way, this weekend? Anyone in the chat? I haven't seen a whole lot. I saw someone asking over the weekend about IB, get together and tailgate and stuff. I think somebody asked us on Friday. I haven't.
Yeah. Nope.
Nothing going
tailgate. on. Nope. Not,
all right.
Not this weekend.
You're on your own.
So you're on your own. But if you see me, I will have Irish Breakdown stickers. So just holler. I'll go into my bag and I'll grab one for you. I've got my I guess you'd call her my future sister-in-law. She bought me for Christmas like 100 IB stickers. Random. She always kind of thinks outside the box on presents.
Okay.
So I have 100 like stickers, IB stickers, and they're round and it's the IB logo. And I put one like on my laptop, and then I still have 99 left. Like I don't know what to do with all of them. I think it's an awesome gift. So I'm thinking, if I see people at games and stuff, I'll hand them out. We have a tailgate. I'm gonna have a stack of them, until they're gone. So if you see us walking around,
look at you handing out stickers.
Be like, just handing out stickers.
Man of the people.
That's all I'm saying.
All right. Well, man of the people, I got a question. Are you ready for rapid fire?
I'm always ready for rapid fire, especially a spring break version of rapid fire. So
true story.
Been waiting all day for this. Like, it's funny that my whole day has revolved around this show. It's like, well, I'm not doing anything, but I have a show at 5.
Yeah.
Like, the whole day has revolved around this. So I'm
Got
ready.
in early, ready to go.
Yeah.
Thing.
Early for me, anyway.
Fill in the blank. Guerby Lambert being out until sometime in the fall after surgery to repair a shoulder labrum is blank.
It's disappointing for me. It's devastating for him because I think it moves his timeline a little bit, because it just said in the fall. Like, does that mean ready for fall practice? Does that mean in the middle of the season? Like, they were very vague about a timeline, and I get it. It's April. Like, I understand it. But it's devastating, man, because, again, my perfect offensive line, he's in it. And I was really hoping that he'd be able to compete for one of those tackle spots. And I don't think that's going to be the case, because I don't think he's going to be ready for fall camp.
That's what I can't see him only 3 months from now after having the labrum repaired.
Is that the same thing that Jagasaw had last year?
No, Jagasaw was torn pectoral, and he might have had a little bit of labrum as well.
Okay.
But I mean, the labrum is basically the band that holds your shoulder together. And if that's torn and they've got to do that, that means like no lifting. Like he's not going to be able to lift.
Strong. Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be a while before he's ready to lift. Yeah. So he's going to lose a lot of strength. He's going to have to gain it back. And I can't see him, and again, like, this comes from someone I've had both of my labrums done before. So I've been through the whole thing in terms of, like what it takes to, to get back up to strength after that. I can't see him being anywhere approaching like even 80% until somewhere like midway through the season.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean he might not be able to get out there and do something, but that also means, like going back to what we were talking about earlier in the first segment about the offensive line and the fact that they had a makeshift offensive line. Well, if you don't have Guerby Lambert, like Emil Wagner is still in uniform, but he's barely practicing. I wonder if we'll see any of him in the blue gold game on Saturday. It doesn't seem like it because it's basically been like he's in uniform, but we haven't seen him do anything this spring. But like Guerby Lambert was going to be in the mix for one of those jobs. And so like you have to wonder now, does Charles Jagasaw stay at guard like he's been all spring, or is he back in play now as a left tackle potentially? And obviously, or do you just put Anthony Knapp back out there again? Like there's a lot of questions that they'll be going into fall training camp with after this.
Yeah, it is. And I think the preference is that he stays at guard. I think he wants to go to tackle. So who wins out on that battle? You know what I mean? As far as what position he's going to be playing. And it's disappointing because he is just your prototypical tackle body going into his sophomore year. Everybody wondered why he wasn't getting any opportunities his freshman year. He just wasn't ready mentally. But you were hoping that light would come on for sophomore year, and now he's got this injury to deal with. So it just stinks. It just stinks.
Yeah. Absolutely stinks big time. Tommy, yes, I did start your other question about the bracket. So we'll touch on that here in a little bit when we get to some basketball.
Rough for me.
Talk. Other than quarterbacks, Vince, who stood out to you the most watching Saturday's practice?
Well, I mean, Elijah Burris looked great. He had a lot of opportunities in this scrimmage, got a lot of balls thrown his way, mainly because the great one was being bracketed an awful lot. And they kind of took him out of the game, right? And that's what you do as a defense, right? You take out the potential best player.
It was amazing how many times I wrote down 16, like at least being targeted out there. And obviously the touchdown.
And he made a lot of plays. He had one bad drop, obviously, but he overcame that and had the big catch of CJ Carr's touchdown pass at the end of the scrimmage and a practice. But he stood out. Like I had never seen him play, obviously, before, and he definitely stood out.
Greathouse was not out. He was out
Greathouse
there.
was not out. He was
Faison was out because he was playing lacrosse, but Greathouse was out there.
Yeah, Greathouse was out there the entire time, and they were bracketing him the entire time. There was a safety over the top of Greathouse every single play. So, but yeah, I thought Elijah Burris looked really good. And again, it's going to be kind of a Michael Gilbert type of situation where, you can step up in spring because the numbers are down and stuff like that. Will he be able to parlay that into something in the fall where he's part of the rotation?
I mean, that's going to be
the house on that.
But it's going to be a lingering question. What happened to Burris? Why isn't he out there more? He had such a great spring 100%. And everything else.
Yes, 100%.
But I mean, you're going to get Malachi Fields, and you got, Will Pauling, obviously, and you got Greathouse, and you got Faison. I mean, that's 4 guys you can count on right there. And really, like, I could see Burris potentially.
It's possible.
Maybe, getting into that.
Yeah.
Top 6.
It definitely helps that Micah Gilbert's out with the finger, and not being able to practice, right? Cam Williams looked good, things of that nature. But, I think there's going to be some real competition to get into that rotation for the first time in a while, like real competition.
And I wonder, because again, like CJ Carr threw it to KK Smith a few times. And again, with some close coverage, Smith was holding on to the football. So maybe he ends up kind of being a part of that mix as well. Again, like looking forward to Saturday to, just to see what some of that looks like, a continuation, I think. Mine was Jalen Sneed, though. Like, and it started like right off the bat, like that play that he read where he made that tackle for loss.
Yeah.
And I mean, he came at it out of the will, and he just looks like, again, like the anticipation, like he knew right away what his key was, what his read was, and he was on top of that.
Yeah.
In a hurry. And we just saw some very good consistent play from Jalen Sneed. And I think that's like a really good sign as well, like especially considering how his career started, kind of going back to what we were just talking about, like people clamoring for so long for more Jalen Sneed, and he's really putting it together right now.
He's getting an opportunity too, because he was out there starting.
Yeah.
Which I never really thought would happen, if I'm being honest, right? I always thought he was going to kind of a change
Just
pace
be a
guy,
role
a
player.
third down guy, role player guy. We'll see what happens once we get to the fall. But he was out there as a starter, and putting on that extra weight. Maybe that helps him out a heck of a lot more. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I thought that was good.
Joe said I'm biased to the linebackers. Come on, man. Come on.
See, everybody's
seeing
got
what
their
I want to see.
biases.
That's right.
Everybody's got them.
All right, so we do have the Blue Gold game this Saturday, and it's going to have a little bit different look. Here's Marcus Freeman on that.
To the game, okay, we'll have 4 15-minute quarters. All right, the first half we'll treat as normal, and the second half will be a running clock based on head coach's discretion. If it's close like we want it to be, we will use a normal clock probably in the last 2 minutes or somewhere in the fourth quarter. Okay, we will open the game with a live kickoff.
You know what? That is not. I don't know how, but that is from a year ago. I don't know how that got in there.
Look at you.
Interesting.
Saving audio from a year ago.
Again, I have zero idea how that got in there, but that's an old one. Because, like, if you looked at the photo of that, that was old.
You named it MF Blue-Gold, by the way.
Yeah. Hang on just a second. I can solve this here very quickly. It's just going to take a second.
It's all good.
I'm in my iMovie, and I'm putting this together here real quick. So hang on just a second.
You can get stuff out of iMovie that fast. I'm impressed.
Well, they're short clips, so they're.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. I'm usually doing like 40 to an hour off of iMovie.
Yeah,
takes a little longer.
The fact that it's a short audio clip,
with
a cover photo makes it a lot easier.
That's a good point. Yeah, no process. Video, like legit quickly. Video. Yeah, okay. Yeah. All right.
That's right.
You win.
That's right. So
you win.
Little delay there, and
we can answer that question actually.
Here we go.
And say that like the spring game format will be similar to what you saw today. It will be offense versus defense. We won't do a draft like we have in the past because of numbers. We don't have the ability to truly have two complete offense and defenses and feel like it's going to be what's best for our program. So we will go offense versus defense for the spring game and score it in a way kind of like we scored it today, something that our guys are familiar with. But we'll find a way to make it competitive, but it'll be great to see those guys compete.
No Blue Gold draft this year. That's a little bit disappointing after they
I like the draft. People hated it. I liked it.
DK
that's fine.
Hated the draft.
You're going to hate watching this offensive line too. So,
man. But I mean, he's saying it's going to be a pretty similar format to what we were watching, the way they were rotating guys, it sounds like, on Saturday.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's going to look a lot different.
It's going to look a lot different. And what are we going to be able to take from it? I don't know. Like it's going to be interesting from the Blue Gold game. I think based on numbers, it makes sense that they're doing it this way. And you're going to see more good on good, which I think is also a good thing. So as much as I like the draft for the Blue Gold game because I don't care about the Blue Gold game. Like it doesn't mean anything to me. I think you're going to see people taking more out of the Blue Gold game now than they ever have in the past couple of years because it is the first team offense against the first team defense. So,
yeah, exactly. And it's pretty much just going to be, as Brian is saying, pretty much like an open practice.
Correct.
Is what it's going to be. I wonder what this is going to look like from a TV perspective. I mean, like he didn't even say, I wonder if they're even like what kind of clock they're even going to have. Like, will they even do it in quarters? Like,
that's a great question.
I'm really curious to see what this looks like out there.
That's a great question. Yeah.
I still am baffled at how I had a cut from a year ago, like where that came from.
I'm impressed. You see, you must not have cleared it out. You got a lot of stuff on your computer.
I've deleted a lot of stuff here recently too. Somehow that managed to live. As soon as he started talking, I was like, it's not what he said on Saturday.
I was like, wow, okay, we're going to do 4 quarter? All right.
I know. Craig says, see any kick returners or punt returners at practice? We saw a little bit of special teams. You were upstairs. I know Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love were both out there.
Yep. So was the new kid, number 2. Will Pauling was out there.
Yeah.
It was 4 total. I'm trying to remember. I have it written down in my notebook, but my notebook's upstairs, so that does us absolutely no good. I can go run and get it if you want me to. But it was 4 guys. It was a very quick period. It was,
and again, it's spring. A lot is subject to change between now and then.
They were kicking off from like the 50-yard line, so I mean, it was a shortened version of a kickoff. They were just kind of going, and it was all like walk-on type guys that were the kick return team. They were the ones wearing the vests and stuff like that. So it was just kind of not going through the motions, but they were just kind of going through the motions. I mean, that's really what it was.
Just kind of seeing the kicks in the air and that kind of stuff.
Correct. Yeah. We didn't see a lot of special teams.
They started with some of the special team stuff for like 1 or 2 periods, and then that was it the rest of the way.
Yeah, the one field goal we saw wasn't great. So
decaf, absolutely. The quarterbacks will definitely be wearing red jerseys Saturday. You won't have to worry about it.
You don't want any of those 3 guys getting hurt. I mean, there's no...
They're vying for the starting job. It's all going to be touch football with those guys.
Correct. And one guy got into the face of Angeli at one point, kind of hit him high, kind of on the chest, and Freeman laid into him pretty good. It was a freshman, incoming freshman, and he got Angeli pretty good, and he heard about it.
Didn't do it again.
No. In fact, he told his Uber driver about it. He got yelled at so much. I do know that for a fact. So, because I know said Uber driver who called me. So he was talking about it. Because I got a text. He was like, did Angeli get smoked in this? I was like, I don't remember him getting hit. And then I remembered that penalty that they threw. And it wasn't like but he got touched.
Uber driving. Might have to look into that. Interesting.
They get a lot of information from Uber drivers. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
From players.
Werewolf wants to know who's going to get the Junior Jabby award. Basically the big time spring guy. Jabby.
Well, I mean, if Saturday was the spring game, then that goes to Isaiah Dunn. He would have gotten the player of the game with his interception.
Yeah. We might have to save some of the Junior Jabby predictions. That's a good one. Good category for Friday's show. Junior Jabby predictions. Jesse and I made our spring breakout player predictions at the start of the spring, and I've got that list. And I tell you what, I don't know if anyone that we picked, there's only might be one guy in the running for that right now. It's been an odd spring. I had Micah Gilbert, and obviously there's nothing you can do about an injury.
He does a great job of fake catching. Like, ooh, put it away.
Because
they're not actually throwing on the ball.
Yep. Fill in the blank. Hannah Hidalgo made it official over the weekend. She's returning to Notre Dame next season. That's blank.
Great for the team. I hate that they have to announce it. Like, it's so silly that they have to announce that they're
did you see the men's team? Like, everyone on the men's team they did like a social media announcement for everybody on the men's team over the weekend.
I mean, it's not that many, but yes, there
were like 5 or 6.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like, really, guys, do we have to? I mean, I realize that's the day and age that we're in, and the media speculation and everything that's out there. Like, I get it. It's just annoying that people have to be like, sophomore year loading, or that phrase really, it gets on my nerves. First of all, I don't know why, but like, I'm locked in, sophomore year loading, Okay, got it.
I mean, obviously for Hannah, I mean, ultra important that she's coming back, because I mean, let's think about it. Before this other stuff happened, there, like the other transfers, like the big question was, is Hannah Hidalgo going to stay? And there were people worried that she was going to take off. And so obviously, especially because you have these other departures, it's even more important
I get
to get her back. But look, she's going to be probably the front runner for National Player of the Year, like one of the 2 or 3 front runners for National Player of the Year next year. It's probably going to be her. Betts from UCLA. Juju Watkins is going to miss most, if not all, of the season, so she won't be in the running for that. So like to have that, and when you're trying to attract other players now coming out of the portal, to have her as the anchor like you obviously can't overstate the importance of having a player of Hidalgo's caliber coming back.
Yep, no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
USMA 87, what's the drama with Hidalgo and social media posts, Olivia firing back? Look, I'm not going to go too deep into all the drama about the social media posts, but there was apparently like an anti-LGBTQ something that she either reposted or liked or something. And, she you can read her Players Tribune thing, where she did announce that she was coming back. She addresses it, a little bit in there. And
Hannah does. She's the one that addresses
it. Okay. Honestly, I hadn't heard about it until like late in the season that it even happened. So I don't know. Oh. And then he says Olivia firing back. I have no idea. I haven't seen Olivia Miles say anything. So
this is the first I'm hearing of any.
I don't know what that's all about. And, like social media spats, I really could not care less.
Those are
about.
Not, I shouldn't say fake. That was the word I was going to say. They're not fake, but they're dumb. Like, I don't know.
Kate Koval, in the meantime, announced today that she's going to LSU. What'd you think about that news?
I'll say the word that I sent you. Gross. Like, I don't like it. I'm not a fan of it. Obviously she's going to go someplace big because she's a big time recruit and she's a big body and can, it's great for her. You know what I mean? Just anywhere but there, not anywhere, anywhere but like 3 or 4 schools. And that's
one of the few places. Yeah. Like, I'm going to say I was shocked, like just that it ended up being LSU. I think that was a shock when you think about, Kim Mulkey obviously being down there and and everything else. And
I'm not a fan of hers.
Exactly. But it's a pretty quick decision to make for Kim as well.
She posted, I think today, like thanking Notre Dame and the whole deal. And then
she did the thank you over the weekend.
Oh, was it over the weekend? Okay.
Yeah, it was at least yesterday.
Okay.
At least yesterday.
It felt like, and then it was quick. It was like, boom. And then now there's an announcement.
Feels like maybe that's why she got that out first.
Yeah,
like she did the thank you, which I felt was a little bit of a, if that's what, it didn't come across as, granted, she's only been here for a year, didn't come across as overly heartfelt by any means.
Right.
Well, yeah. But Sonia Citron said her goodbyes and thank yous to Notre Dame with her own social media post, a very long social media post that she made over the weekend. Here's part of what Citron said, quote, "The culture Coach Ivy created helped mold me into the woman I am today and goes far beyond the basketball court. Her passion, her energy, and the genuine love that she has for her players is something I cherish. She leads with heart, and it's something I will always admire and carry with me. The love and support I received is a testament to the Notre Dame community and how truly special it is," end quote. So what did you think about that one from Citron?
That one felt heartfelt, right?
Yes.
I mean, she's called, because there's a lot of people questioning Niele Ivy, obviously, with everything that's going on, how the season ended, how many people are in the transfer portal, blah, 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 right? I like the fact that she's like, she's the one that made this experience for me. She is amazing, and I want to make sure people know that, and that she had a positive experience at Notre Dame. I mean, I know that that's silly, but it feels like with everything that people are saying right now that needed to be said. You know what I mean? Like that there's nothing wrong with this program. It's a great program. It's led by a great person and a great head coach. And I'm the person I am today because of it. Like, love that. Love it.
There was definitely some intention behind it.
Yes.
Because of all the stuff that has gone on. And there have been a lot of, like the culture thing has been, it's obviously since Olivia entered the portal last week, it has been a hot topic, so I think that there was definitely some intention with what Citron said. And I felt like it needed to be said, and I'm glad that she said it, because again, like you can have your own opinions on this whole thing, but everything, that I've seen, traveling with this team and, being on the planes and the buses and the airports and everything else, there's like culture has been one of the biggest things, one of the biggest assets of this program, starting
Correct.
with Niele Ivey and trickling on down through everybody else. And I have not seen anything. I did not see anything different this year that I've seen the previous years before it. And I don't think culture has anything to do with this. It just has more to do with differences of personalities and egos and, some of those things when you look at some of the specific things, that happened, I think.
Agreed.
Last week.
Wholeheartedly agree. Yeah, definitely some intentionality there. And good for her. It was a very mature thing to do, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I liked it. And
the head coach has always had the players back. So, I mean, one of the most prominent, like one of the first, commitments that Niele Ivey had, I felt like it, it was huge for the player to have her back publicly as well.
I liked what Marist, he retweeted it and he put a little thing out there too. And he basically said something along the lines of, it's sad that you will no longer be wearing a Notre Dame jersey, but I'm excited for the next one that you put on, that kind of a thing. Like that was a cool way to put it. Like I appreciated that too. So
especially if it's in Dallas, that would be very cool. But
that would be tough. That's the number one pick, and then 15 or something.
Got a feeling it's going to be Becker's going number one, and I don't think that Citron. I think 12 is
12.
What Dallas has.
She's not going to drop that far. She might bump up to 2.
I know.
She might be going to Seattle. I think it was who has the number 2 pick.
Yeah. Tommy wants to know if we're going to discuss the IB basketball bracket. Vince, how is your bracket? Do you have a shot at winning?
Oh God, tonight? No. I had Duke winning at all, so obviously no more points can be gained for me personally. And my bracket was pretty much a disaster from the jump, so I did not do well. I'm pulling it up as we speak just to see how bad I actually did. So in the IB Nation Sports Talk, our group size was 60. There was 60 people that got in there. I am currently in 51st place, if that tells you anything.
Okay.
So not great.
It's probably somewhere around where I finished last year, if I remember right.
And the one I did at school, there were 7 people. It was like our little office pool. And you just can't come in last. If you come in last, you have to buy lunch for everybody. I came in 6th. Second to last. First winner.
There you go, baby.
So
there you go.
I'm happy. I was really getting nervous there for a minute.
Women's national championship game last night. Andre said no one expected UConn to beat South Carolina like that. I sure didn't, even though they beat them the first time like that in the regular season. I didn't expect a repeat of that. But, man, UConn they got much better as the season went along. That's obviously they were missing AZ Fudd at the start of the season and got her back. That game, though, tipped off, Vince, at 3:00 Eastern time, Sunday afternoon. Plenty of people who think that it needs to be a primetime game. In or out on keeping the tip time for the women's championship in the afternoon?
I'm out. I think it should be a primetime game. And the reason I say that is because I thought it was a primetime game. By the time I thought about it, the game was over. Like I was going to throw it on, and kind of watch a little bit of it. It was a Sunday night, like not a whole lot going on Sunday night. I was going to throw it on, you know what I mean? And it was already over. I was like, oh, UConn won. Oh, okay. Missed it. All right. I think it should be at night. I think it should be in prime time. Most of the time on a Sunday, people are doing stuff in the afternoon and during the day. You know what I mean? You come back, you settle in, you watch Sunday night. Like that's what should have been.
If you can watch an NFL football game in the middle of a Sunday afternoon, you can watch a women's basketball national championship game. And I think we can all pretty much agree we'd prefer 3:00 in the afternoon to 9:00 at night, which,
Granted.
What's the over under on the time that they're actually going to tip this thing off tonight?
Yeah.
It's supposed to start at 9:00. I actually managed to stay up and watch that Houston Duke game until midnight Saturday night with Jesse when he was in town. That was freaking amazing. And I almost went to bed a couple of different times because I thought that, I think it was like 2 minutes to go and Duke's up by 8 points. And it just felt like Houston could never get closer than 5. And then the next thing you know, boom, they're up and they win that thing.
Yeah.
Finished the game on a 9-0 run. That was amazing. Awesome. But
it was wild.
I don't know if I want to stay up till midnight tonight to watch the
I will not be.
the men's
I might be up till
championship game.
midnight, but I won't be watching the game. I'll be honest. I lost a lot of interest in that one once I knew my bracket was completely busted. And I just look, I'll be that guy. Like, I like to root for underdogs and things like that. You got 4 number 1 seeds in the Final Four. Like, okay, maybe it's going to be really good basketball, but I don't have a rooting interest. Like, I have to have a rooting interest in order to watch a game if my team is not in it, which obviously would be a rooting interest. It just, I don't know. This year hasn't done it for me. I'll be honest. It hasn't done it for me. And Florida and Houston don't do it for me. So I doubt that I'll be watching, especially since I'm a single parent right now. So I will be taking care of the chillins. So.
Yeah, Salty was talking about the ratings, and I haven't seen the actual ratings. Nope, here it goes. UConn, South Carolina, the 3rd most watched women's basketball national championship game, or hold it. 3rd most watched women's national championship game of all time. It came in at 8.5 million viewers yesterday.
Okay.
Which is pretty solid. It was 4.9. It was more than the 4.9 million viewers that they brought in the same 2 teams in the national championship game in 2022. Last year's game, 18.9 million viewers. Of course, that was the Caitlin Clark effect. But I tell you what, 8.5 million is
pretty
still
good.
Very strong, because the only 2 games that have topped it were the 2 national championship games that Clark and Iowa played in the last 2 years. So even though it's down, still a very strong number. So even though Caitlin Clark is gone, I think that the women's game still got, like some carryover effect, some momentum from Caitlin Clark the last couple of years. So 8.9 million, still a really strong number. And it is in the middle of the afternoon. And, like to the whole, do you put it in prime time? Look, they're putting it on ABC, which is good because it's on broadcast TV, so more people get a chance to see it. And ABC's got American Idol on Sunday night. That's the problem with Sundays. Sunday is a big, TV night.
Yep.
In terms of like the shows that people want to see, and like White Lotus, for example, would be competing with it on HBO. But solid number.
Salty, while we're talking about the men's tournament, it was all the number 1 seeds. We're not talking about the women's tournament. So just FYI.
What's he talking about now?
He said one of them was the number 2 seed.
UConn was a number 2 seed.
I'm talking about the men.
Oh, yeah.
The men, all number
all
1s.
All of the men were number 1s.
Like that turns me off. Like, I'm out. Yeah. I don't, like, that doesn't do anything. Unless, like I said, unless it came down to like a game for my bracket or whatever. My bracket was toast a long time ago. So, like, once there's no me in it anymore, like, I'm out. So
right. Remington Jeans, thank you for the super chat. Is there any advantage in our first few games, given there is not much film on either one of the 3 potential starters at quarterback?
Well, that's where the whole experience thing comes into play. If Steve Angeli is the starter, they're going to know exactly what to do against Steve Angeli.
Yeah. So
is there an advantage if it's Minchey or Carr? Sure, because there's not a lot of film on either one of those guys, obviously. But it's not an advantage if Steve Angeli is the quarterback. Sorry.
Yeah, because there is film on Steve Angeli.
Right. So, and a decent chunk of it, everybody's all the experience. Well, he's got film. He's got film.
Yep.
Not good.
Brian says, Vince, I thought you had the Hillsdale spring game this week.
It is this week. Thank you for asking. I have elected to cover the Blue Gold game instead. Because
Dylan's not actually playing in this Hillsdale Springs game.
He may drive up on his own. And that's fine.
And if he does, he's just watching. He's not actually participating.
He's actually there now and will be taking in a spring practice tomorrow, getting fitted for equipment, all that fun stuff for the future. And I don't know, they figuring out what cleats all that crap, right? So he's there doing that now with his mom, and I'm back here with the rest of the clan. So we're definitely going out to dinner, by the way.
Okay. Sounds good.
Dad's not doing the cooking.
Okay, so I watched a Val Kilmer movie this weekend. Of course, Val Kilmer passed away last week. The movie The Saint from 1997. Have you ever seen The Saint?
I feel like I saw it back then, but not recently enough to have like a comment on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like I did see it though. I read about it, and it, fires some of the, the synapses in the brain.
Well, yeah,
but it's been a while.
I don't think I had ever seen it, and I was looking, after we talked about him last week, and I did a search of Val Kilmer, and The Saint came up, and I was like, I've never seen The Saint, so I checked it out. Tracy likes that movie, and I had never seen it. It came out a year after Mission Impossible, and it's fairly similar in a lot of ways to Mission Impossible, except that Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible is basically like an undercover agent kind of guy, whereas Val Kilmer was actually a thief, but he did a lot of the same things, a lot of disguises and stuff like that. One of the disguises, actually, he did a voice that was very similar to Tombstone, Doc Holliday, like a very similar, kind of character, but a lot of same beats as Mission Impossible. Easily could have been a franchise like Mission Impossible, but they never did a sequel. Elizabeth Shue was his co-star in it.
Now I'm gonna watch it,
and
that's all you had to say.
Talk about I was like very fixated on Elizabeth Shue.
That's all you had to say. Like
1997 Elizabeth Shue. Couldn't take my eyes off.
She was legit a crush for me back in the day. Yep. Like no doubt. Like Cocktail,
big time. And that's funny because like the whole cruise, so like Mission Impossible and The Saint, with Val Kilmer, very, very similar. But then you throw in the Shoe thing as well because of her, Cocktail with Tom Cruise, and there were some similar beats there as well as far as the love interest and some of that
now I'm gonna watch
kind of stuff. She gets jilted, they get back together, the whole thing.
Yeah, now I'm definitely gonna watch it, and it's free on Peacock. I will be watching that movie.
But what really struck me, the reason I'm bringing this up is because Val Kilmer, toward the end of the movie, he did something that reminded me of something that they did in Top Gun Maverick. Do you remember Warlock in Top Gun Maverick? Like during the mission at the end, when they have to go complete the mission, and Warlock's going, that's miracle number 1. That's miracle number 2.
Yeah.
That's miracle number 3. Val Kilmer does the exact same thing. He's like counting off. He's like miracle number 1, miracle number 2. And then they went to miracle number 2 because as soon as he said it, I'm like, I wonder if like Top Gun Maverick, like
homage,
did a little homage. And then it took a little while, but finally he goes, that's miracle number 3. And in both, it was 3 miracles.
3 things. Yeah.
It felt like to me, like maybe they did a little homage with that in Top Gun Maverick.
I dig it.
Obviously he was still alive, but he had the throat cancer.
Yeah.
And like they worked him into the storyline, but I don't know. It had me wondering. It definitely stood out. I thought it was kind of cool. If they actually did that, very cool. So
I'm in. That's all you had to say. Well, all you had to say was Elizabeth Shue, but I'm in either way. Sounds like a good one.
The plot of the movie, like, just remind yourself you're watching it for Val Kilmer and entertainment. And like the plot of the movie, it's like very hard to follow.
Okay.
Very hard to follow. But
okay, gotcha.
Like, especially like when he's doing the disguises and stuff like that, that's like that and the Elizabeth Shue, 2 best parts of it. And I'd say the last hour definitely kicks a little bit harder than the first hour. So, but it's worth it. Again,
I'm in.
Rest in peace, Val Kilmer.
Sad.
Tough beat. All right, well, that's going to do it for today. We enjoyed kicking the quarterbacks down the road.
I have a feeling we're going to continue talking about them for quite some time.
Got a feeling you're right. I got a feeling a week from today we're going to be talking about them as well. after the blue
'cause
gold
it's
game.
going to be post blue gold game. Yeah, we definitely will be.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, appreciate you guys as always. Thank you very much, Joe, and thanks everyone else as well. Yep, Chuck nailing it. Shu was in Back to the Future 2 and 3. She stepped in after the original.
Yes.
I can't think of her character's name, but she was gone.
Jennifer.
After the first one. Jennifer, yeah.
Jennifer. Big Back to the Future fan right here. So
yeah. All right, hit the like button before you leave. We do appreciate you. Ooh, drink the wine. There you go. There you go. Good one, Clontarf. We'll talk to you later on IB Nation Sports Talk.